The drama of the Inca Empire is undeniable. Its sudden appearance at the height of its power, its rapid expansion across the Andes, and its dramatic conquest by the Spanish. The Inca have been the subject of scores of books, films, and museum exhibits, all captivated by this lost civilization. Less attention has been paid to the everyday reality of the people who formed this empire, how they farmed and traded. It's time now to look at the bigger picture. Below us, the landscape unspools into a patchwork quilt of cultivated terraces, each carefully irrigated and planted with maize, potatoes, or the grain called ki. Scattered across the landscape, hidden in caves or tucked into the folds of the mountains are smaller in the shadow of a towering volcano. It spreads across the arid plain, a metropolis of stone. In front of us rises the most impressive example of Inca architecture, a monument built without mortar and designed to capture the heavens. It is Coricancia, the most important temple in the empire. But his father, Huascar, had him put under house arrest in Ca. At the time, the Inca Empire was at war with the neighboring kingdom of Cato, and Atahualpa's half-brother saw him as a rival for the throne. So while Atahualpa was trapped in the governor's palace, his half-brother seized control of the empire. When Pizarro entered Cajamarca, he invited the Inca nobles to a banquet in the courtyard of the governor's palace. Once they had gathered, he had them arrested. Atahualpa rushed to the balcony, shouting for the guards to open the gate, but they wouldn't. Then he promised to exchange the prisoners for his brother. The next day, Atahualpa rode into Cajamarca in fine garments and bearing gifts. But the Spaniards broke their promise, killing the Inca nobles. They also refused to give Atahualpa safe passage. He was captured and imprisoned in the monastery of Santo Domingo. His captors gave him an impossible choice: convert to Christianity or die. Atahualpa converted and was baptized against his will. He agreed to turn over the empire's treasure in return for his freedom. But when the Spaniards saw how much gold he brought them, they decided to kill him anyway. Behind it, the palace of the emperor, a labyrinth of reception halls, storerooms, and gardens. His empire, drained by civil war and enslaved by disease, quickly fell under the sway of the conquistadors. Most of the gold that they stole ended up melted down and shipped to Europe. Very little of it remains today. Yet Inca palaces and temples are full of other treasures, things the conquistadors didn't want or couldn't carry away. Items that survived 5 centuries of neglect and looting to tell the story of an empire that lasted for less than a century but left an enduring legacy. Together, the temple and palace are the heart of the Inca world. It is said that within these walls, the emperor received ambassadors from distant lands and heard reports from his governors about the empire's vast territories. They're nearly invisible unless you know where to look. The Inca ruled over many different groups of people speaking many different languages, but language is only one of the ways cultures are defined. Within the Inca world were worlds unto themselves. The lands were diverse, from the cloud forests to the Paramo, the treeless grasslands of the highest elevations. The Inca maintained a deep connection to the land, believing it was inhabited by powerful spirits that must be respected. The Inca spoke their own language, Quechua, and worshipped a pantheon of gods, Inti, the sun god, being the supreme deity. Religion was not confined to temples and rituals. Every aspect of Inca life was suffused with meaning. The layout of their cities, the direction of their houses, even the patterns of their clothing held secret knowledge. Their textiles were particularly notable, for the designs were not merely ornamental. Geometric shapes, stylized plants and animals, and scenes from daily life were encoded with meaning. Patterns told where a garment was made, who wore it, and what social rank the wearer held. Inside them, shelves hold jars filled with dried meat, fish, fruit, and corn. He is both a man and a god. His lineage is traced back to the creator god Iacaka, and he is considered a manifestation of Inti, the sun god. When he enters a city, it is with the grandeur reserved for a deity. He rides on a golden throne carried by servants. The throne is surrounded by attendants, guards, and herders who keep their distance, tending to their duties, careful not to meet the emperor's eyes directly. Only the empress and the royal priestess are allowed to look upon his face. These stores are filled with food so good it will last for years, so that if a village or town suffers a bad harvest, its people don't have to go hungry. Inca rulers believed that they had a responsibility to feed their people, and these hidden caches of food ensured that no one went hungry. Small towns and villages appear, made of stone houses and whitewashed walls, each with its central plaza and fountain. From here, we can see the genius of Inca urban planning. Their main cities were laid out with astonishing precision, each building fitting together perfectly with no mortar. The streets were straight and wide, lined with fountains and temples. The center of each city was a temple complex, a maze of chambers and courtyards devoted to the sun god and other deities. Here, priests performed rituals and the elite kept watch over the empire. The common people lived in the lower town, working as farmers or artisans. Around the city, in the flattest, richest land, were the storehouses and workshops of the state. Here, tribute goods from across the empire were gathered. Food, textiles, metalwork, even live animals were brought here, then redistributed according to need. The redistribution of goods was vital to the Inca concept of community. Everything belonged to everyone, and the state oversaw everything. No person could ever own land or resources outright, but every person would receive what they needed to survive. Let's leave our village and follow the road leading out of the valley. As we climb, the air grows thin and colder. The trees become stunted shrubs, gnawed by the wind. Above us, condors soar on invisible currents. Soon we come to a broad ledge carved into the mountainside. Here we stop to rest, looking out at the dramatic landscape around us. We are more than 12,000 feet above sea level. Before us stretches one of the greatest feats of engineering in the ancient world. Here at the edge of the cloud forest, the Inca began building what would become the largest road system in pre-Columbian America. This was the Capacon, which means royal road, but it evolved gradually from a loose network of mountain paths that had connected the Andes for millennia. By the time of its completion, the Inca road system stretched for some 40,000 kilometers, crossing deserts, climbing over passes, almost 5,000 meters high, winding through gorges and along cliffs. At certain points along the road, we might pause at a structure with whitewashed walls and a thatched roof. This is a tambo, a kind of inn where weary travelers could find food and shelter. These buildings were spaced no more than 2 days' walk apart, making travel safer and more predictable. At the tambos, travelers could also change horses, riding the strong pack animals bred in the high Andes. Runners called chasqui sped back and forth between tambos relay style, carrying messages, goods, and data recorded on colorful strings of knotted rope called quipu. Though not a writing system per se, the quipu provided a way to keep track of statistics, the numbers recorded by the thickness and tightness of the knots and the color of the string. This innovation allowed for the collection of taxes, population counts, even census records. Along the road, there are shrines to the local deities. Offerings have been made recently, and the smell of copal incense still lingers. Some shrines are grand, some are no larger than a rock cat, but each testifies to the Inca belief that the landscape was alive with spirits, how they dressed and ate, how they lived before the empire fell, and their cities were filled with riches. That is why I wrote this book. In writing about pre-Columbian history, we must address a gap in knowledge caused by the Spanish. In the 16th century, much of the Inca record-keeping was destroyed, and the stories that did survive often bear the marks of Spain's cultural and religious biases. They told a story of an empire fallen to sin because of its reverence for idols. For hundreds of years, these accounts were taken as fact. But over the past half-century, new discoveries and fresh perspectives have rewritten the story of the Inca. Archaeologists have uncovered monumental architecture, deciphered knotted records, and found traces of daily life, allowing us to understand this culture on its own terms. Through the study of artifacts, plant remains, animal bones, and human bones, we are getting closer and closer to the real story of the Inca. House has given us some understanding of the Inca's relationship with the land and each other. As the road winds on, the terrain shifts from forest to scrubland to high desert dotted with flocks of llamas. But beyond the city walls, another pattern appears. At the end of a long day on the road, we arrive in a city unlike any other. In the distance, the mountains rise above the clouds, marking the edges of the empire. But its boundaries weren't determined by geography alone. And now we wait for a glimpse of the emperor, the Sapa Inca, whose image is carried in a litter from city to city. Though few subjects ever get a clear view of his face, Atahualpa was born into this reverence. He was the legitimate heir to the throne. The Inca emperor's death marked the beginning of the end. We return to the year 1532. If the sky were clear, you would see a new constellation in the east, shining bright for the first time. We know it today as the Southern Cross. But here, high above the world, there is no way to know that. From high above, we saw the citadel poised among the clouds. Now we wind below it, descending into a tunnel carved by water, a torrent tamed to become a stairmaster. Much of what we know about their society comes from fragments of memory, from stories told and retold until they became myths. One of the main thoroughfares runs alongside a raised road. We stand here and look out over the valley, which stretches like a tapestry woven with cloud and green. It is difficult to imagine how such perfection could be real, how such peace could exist within a kingdom at war. Distant sounds rise and fall. Nothing echoes here. Nothing repeats itself. Each step takes us deeper into tranquility. Though the foundations may have crumbled, we can still make out shapes in the stonework, outlines of rooms leading to dark interiors, where the drip of water is the only sound. Along the walls, niches hint at places once occupied by statues. In one room, a shelf suggests where offerings might have rested. One of the greatest puzzles about Machu Picchu is the reason for its construction. Within 2 decades, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but as a testament to a vibrant culture. Remember the rituals and ceremonies that took place here. Picture the bustling marketplace, the procession of nobles, the thrill of athletic contests, the excitement of festivals. Hear the laughter of children playing, the murmur of a lover's whispers, the soothing chant of a shaman's prayer. Most importantly, remember the spirit of the place. Remember the serenity that pervades every inch of the citadel, the sense of harmony between humanity and the natural world. Take this feeling with you as you go back to the world. Let it guide you in your own life. Let it remind you of the beauty and simplicity that exists all around us. Because although Machu Picchu may be lost, its spirit remains, a timeless beacon calling us to remember and to return. Today, it draws more than 1.5 million visitors each year, but even in the crowds, it is possible to feel a connection to the past. Standing in the shadow of the mountains, listening to the whisper of wind through the grasses, feeling the coolness of the morning mist, breathing in the scent of flowers and the tang of wet earth. For a moment, it is easy to forget the noise of the modern world, the demands and distractions of everyday life. Here, there is only the present. Here, there is peace. We know that it was built in the 1400s, but we don't know why. There are theories. Of course, perhaps it was a royal estate, a place of retreat for the chief. Another suggestion is that it served as a religious sanctuary, a place where priests could commune with the gods. A third theory holds that it was built to honor the Inca king's deceased son, forever keeping his memory alive. But in the end, the true purpose of Machu Picchu may be unknowable. All we can be certain of is that it was abandoned long before the Spanish arrived, erased from history by earthquakes, shifting populations, or perhaps by deliberate design. Then it vanished from memory, swallowed by the jungle. In another, where a ritual ceremony took place. And everywhere, the whispers of history seem to cling to the stones. Everywhere, there are signs of life. Everywhere, reminders of the people who once lived, worked, worshipped here. There is nothing to disturb the silence. Not the whisper of wind through the grasses, not the cry of a bird or the chirp of an insect. Small streams cascade over the edges of the stonework, filling channels that once brought crops to the city. Trees grow out of the channels, pushing their roots deep into the earth, twisting around ancient stones, their branches reaching toward the sky. Vines drape over the walls, hiding niches where offerings may have rested. Birds nest in the foliage, chirping songs that have echoed here for centuries. Life has reclaimed the fortress. The jungle has returned to the citadel, wrapping the ruins in verdant embrace. Even the thoughts within our own heads seem loud for this place. And yet, we are not alone. Hidden within the ruins are spirits watching over this forgotten kingdom. It is not an oppressive feeling, but a comforting one, as if the past is alive, sharing its secrets freely, asking only that we remember to keep them safe. In fact, the entire notion of conflict feels alien here, as if the idea of battle could not possibly exist within the serenity of the mountains. Stone steps lead upward to terraces overgrown with vegetation. At the end, the path levels. Here a fountain spurts water into a basin. It was probably meant to keep animals away, but it looks more like a reminder of all that has changed since these walls were built. Vines cling to the weathered stone, forcing their way into the cracks. Broadleaves obscure the view, creating a thick, emerald curtain. Moss grows between the rocks. Golden light touches emerald green, forming pools of shimmering color. Along the way, we pass a series of houses, each carefully built, each precisely fitted into the landscape. There are many houses here, but no walls, no bars, no sentries. Instead, courtyards open onto gardens and plazas, where fountains trickle and terraces rise. Toward the sun, above, the path narrows. Here, the air grows cooler. The vegetation changes. We enter a realm of ferns and mosses. Soon we arrive at the sacred acorns. 3 enormous stones form a row facing the rising sun. They seem to have sprung from the earth itself, untouched by human hand. Nearby, there is a circular area. Some say this place served as a ball court. Others say it was a site of worship. But of one thing we can be sure: the Incas were not an isolated people. Evidence of trade has been found across the continent. Obsidian from faraway Mexico has been discovered, as well as copper from the south and Colombia. Rare stones called nephrite, prized by Inca jewelers, were brought from Canada. And though the Inca did not use a wheel, horses from what is now the United States once roamed the Andean plains. These journeys took years and great effort, and yet these objects crossed continents to become part of daily life. Beyond, we hear the roar of a waterfall tumbling down the mountainside. It is said that a sacred spring flowed here, its water bringing healing to the sick. This place, though, seems strangely familiar, as if this kingdom had not been lost in the jungle, but buried by it, waiting to awaken in another age. And legends, the accounts of those who witnessed the Inca world during conquest, often filtered through the lens of war and evangelization. But for now, these ruins remain silent, so let us listen closely to what they might be telling us. Urubamba River whispers secrets of the mountainside. Sunlight streams through gaps in the stonework, touching moss and lichen where the jungle presses against the sky. Here sunlight filters through ancient trees to touch a citadel lost to the clouds. It is a place without echo or sound, a city without birdsong or rustling leaves, because there are no living things here at all. Only the spirits watch as our story begins. This is Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas. There are many ways to get here, but only one way to begin. Our path starts winding down from the mountain pass. Our journey down leads to a courtyard paved with perfect stones, a place of gathering called a plaza. Before us rises the temple known as the Condor. From here, we will explore the heart of the citadel. But now, let's linger a moment longer in the plaza. It is here, in this open space, where the rhythm of life at Machu Picchu might have played out. Here, a council of elders could have sat under the watchful eyes of the Inca. Here traders might have bartered for goods carried from distant lands. Here farmers could have shared tales of harvest and rituals. But the Incas left no written records. Many paths lead away from the central plaza, but from this place, too, there are paths, and one leads to the edge of the cliff. Another path leads uphill to the place called the Sacred Acorns. Below us, the world stretches out. As we explore further, we discover that life here was not confined to the upper terraces. In the central plaza, near the Temple of the Condor, a low wall still stands. Within the fortress walls, water has returned to the terraces. And yet, even in the midst of all this life, there is a sense of mystery. For centuries, the citadel remained hidden, lost to the world until it was rediscovered by American explorer Hiram Bingham in 1911. As you prepare to leave, remember this place not just as a collection of stones. The lost city of gold has been found. Today, we journey to the Peruvian capital of Cusco to explore its colonial grandeur and Inca foundations. This is a special two-part episode on ancient worlds, where we rewind time and travel to the classical age of Peru. Here, 1500 years ago, the Inca kings were crowned and the empire of Tawantin, the land of the four regions, stretched across the mountains and valleys of the central Andes. Cusco was the heart of it all, the golden navel of the world, and today we are going to spend some time here. You'll find links to our first episode, A City in the Clouds, below. Now let us begin Cusco, and where Pachacati looked toward the mountains of Vilcabamba. Now friars walk with measured steps, spreading words of conversion. Before you lies the former palace of the Inca. Its foundations are Inca, but now a colonial cathedral rises above them. A place of worship, a place of rule, a place of quiet prayer. No matter the roof, it is all the same. But first, a word of warning. We travel to the past at our own peril. Time travel is dangerous business. Are you sure you want to go down there? You peer into the darkness and catch sight of bones littering the tunnel floor. More keep falling from above. You realize that this place has been used for hundreds of years. Who knows how many generations have passed through this gate on their final journey. And beyond the whispers and the rattle of chains, you sense something else. The darkness is broken by shafts of sunlight. Birds chirp overhead. And now, above the ground, Cusco beckons you to explore its mysteries further. To unravel the fabric of two worlds entwined. To discover the magic of the Inca, and to ponder the mysteries of Pacha the Underworld. And you can hear the sounds of Cusco, the noise of the marketplace, the shouts of vendors. You have journeyed to the Inca heartland, glimpsed the wonders of a vanished world. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Ancient Worlds. If you'd like to support the production of more episodes, please consider supporting us. Join our community of patrons and get exclusive perks like blooper reels, scripts, and more. Click the link in the description below to learn more. Until next time, thanks for watching. And slowly, you begin to climb upward, taking with you the lessons of the underworld. There is a low thrumming, like the buzz of insects or the hum of machinery. Something is happening down there, something that should not be seen. The darkness is heavy and alive. Whatever waits for you in the underworld, it is ready to claim you. Now it is covered in the trappings of saints and miracles, but the Inca presence lingers here. It seems to rise up from the stones themselves. The tunnel opens into a great chamber, echoing with dripping water. A subterranean river runs through the middle of the cave, lined with offerings to the gods. The path back is not easy, and many have been lost here forever. But if you follow the river upstream, away from the sounds of dripping water, you will eventually find it. The gate to the underworld is hidden here, overgrown with weeds and cobwebs. It is almost invisible. You must push aside the curtain of darkness to pass through. The Incas believed the river flowed to the underworld. It is a portal to the next world. The sounds of Cusco fade to silence, and you are left alone in the quiet dark. Everywhere you look, hints of the old way survive. As the hours pass, you learn that it is not easy to leave Pacha. The passage back to the living world is not always clear. Sometimes the shades linger here, bound to this place by unfinished business or sorrow. Some whisper tales of their mortal lives, others beg for aid on their journey to the afterlife. And some seem indifferent, trapped in the eternal present of the cavern. In the design of the buildings, in the disposition of the land, even in the arrangement of the stones lining the streets, Cusco is a city built on top of itself, layer upon layer, a constant dialogue between cultures. Above the ground, the Spanish crown holds court. But below the ground, deep in the labyrinthine tunnels, the wisdom of the Inca endures. The very shape of the temple calls to the mountains, to the shape of the earth. The Spanish conquerors adapted many of the Inca holidays to Christian celebrations. And so, today, the Day of the Dead is woven together with All Souls' Day. But none is more important than the cavern known as the Gate of the Gods. Below the city, you enter the silent halls and the cold embrace of eternal night. It is here that the souls of the departed are judged. It is here that the road to the next life begins. Do you have the courage to venture in? It is a day for remembrance, a day to honor those who have passed on. And where do the living gather to remember the dead? At the edge of the living world, at the gateway to the underworld, the entrance to Pat, a realm of perpetual darkness and quiet. It is said the moon Mamakila was the patron deity of Cusco itself, the guiding spirit of life and death. Her priests walked these halls in darkness, counting the stars in the days of the dead. What do you see? How does it move you? Be warned though, what follows cannot be unseen. Let's leave the sanctuary of the temple and step out into the bustling Plaza de Armas. Here the Spanish crown is being paraded on a golden throne. Is it real gold or merely gilt? Who knows? But the weight of history is real enough. Francisco Pizarro sits enthroned here, the conquistador who led the conquest of the Inca. His eyes are empty, sockets staring into the void. Did he ever understand the world he destroyed? Probably not. And beside him, another gilded figure, a symbol of authority. In this case, the Virgin Mary. As you watch, the grandeur of the Spanish Empire fades to reveal the true nature of power. Even if you take all necessary precautions, there are some things you just can't unsee. Once it was a vast complex dedicated to the sun god Inti. Now it is a church and cloisters of Santo Domingo. But between the colonial grandeur and the faded gilding, something of the Inca remains. Their walls are still aligned with solstitial rays. The very shape of the temple grounds mimics the sacred Pumapunku, the Inca gateway. The foundation stones are dressed with geometric patterns. Some bear signs of the constellations. Others show marks that could be read as numbers. And everywhere, the air is charged with echoes of rituals long past. In a few moments, we will cross the threshold of Cusco's main temple, the Coricans. It is said that within its sacred walls, you can feel the spirits of the Inca most keenly. So go ahead, if you dare. Inside the Coricancia, there is much to behold. So you've come to Cusco in the 16th century, where the Inca once gathered in solemn council. Now Spanish officials make laws in gilded halls. Before you is the Temple of the Moon, a place of ceremony, a house of the dead. You'll wander the streets of Cusco, weaving between Spanish colonial architecture and Inca ruins. As you walk, you hear music and drums. It is All Saints' Day, and the plaza is alive with celebration. It is said that Pache, the realm of the dead, is accessible from many places. There are sounds below, voices whispering from the darkness, rattling chains, the echo of far drums. The air in the caverns grows colder and you hear the sound of rushing water growing louder. How does it feel to be here? What do you think of the caverns below the city? What secrets do you imagine lie in the darkness? You have wandered far beneath the heart of Cusco, but now it is time to return. On the other side, you find yourself beneath the city again, but everything is different. It is a long journey back to the surface, but finally you reach the light and the sounds of the living world. And as you step out into the sunshine, you are changed forever. The royal life in Cusco wasn't about ease, it was about responsibility. But what was daily life like in the Inca capital? Imagine being one of the elite, one of the few who could afford to live in the heart of the empire. The Inca state owns all the land, and you are required to turn over a portion of your harvest as tribute. Whether you were a member of the elite or a commoner, life in the Inca capital was never dull. It depended on whether you were born into the elite or among the common folk. But what we do know is that life there would have been far from ordinary. Would you have liked to live in the Inca capital? Let us know in the comments below. And remember to subscribe for more exciting journeys through history. There were always festivals and celebrations to look forward to, as well as the opportunity to travel and trade. Of course, there was also the danger of earthquakes and the ever-present threat of the Spanish conquistadors. But for the most part, life in the Inca capital was good. The Inca were a powerful and prosperous empire, and their capital city was the center of it all. If you had lived in the Inca capital, you would have seen the best and worst of the empire. You would have witnessed the splendor of the royal court and the poverty of the common people. You would have seen the ingenuity of the Inca engineers and the brutality of the Spanish conquistadors. You would have lived through a time of great change and upheaval, but you would have been a part of something truly special. You would have lived in the heart of one of the greatest empires in history. You eat simple foods, mostly grains, vegetables, and the occasional piece of meat. Your house is small and made of mud and stone. It has a thatched roof and dirt floors. It may seem humble by modern standards, but it's sturdy enough to withstand the region's harsh weather conditions. Sometimes life is good. You have a strong community of family and friends. There are festivals and celebrations to break up the monotony of everyday life. There's also a great deal of freedom. You can go about your daily business without having to worry about pleasing anyone else. There's no one telling you what to do or how to do it. However, this freedom comes at a price. While you may not have to pay taxes directly to the state, you are expected to provide labor when it's needed. This could mean working on a public project such as a road or a bridge, or it could mean serving as a soldier in the Inca army. There's no getting around it. Life in the Inca capital is tough. It takes hard work and dedication to survive. but it's also full of opportunity. If you're willing to put in the effort, you can make a good life for yourself and your family, and who knows, maybe someday your child will be one of the elite. You live in a palace with high walls, built from cyclopean stones, decorated with bright murals depicting ceremonies, mythical beasts and victories of your royal house. Perhaps you're a Karakar, a local chief responsible for governing your district and collecting taxes and labor for the state. Or maybe you're a Chaskia runner who keeps the empire connected through a network of roads and paths. You travel the length and breadth of the empire, delivering messages and goods to those who need them. There are no horses or oxen to help you. This is a job for the elite, the strongest and most agile members of society. You eat quickly, stopping only for brief moments to catch your breath. You must be quick and nimble to avoid the sharp drops and narrow paths. You don't travel alone. You're usually accompanied by other Chasqui, each carrying messages and items for various destinations. Every evening, when you stop to rest, you trade stories and gossip, exchanging news from distant corners of the empire. Most evenings, you dine with fellow nobles. Food is served on golden plates, and you drink from ceremonial cups. There are always intrigues and rivalries bubbling beneath the surface. Still, there are benefits to being an elite member of society. Not only do you have access to the best food and the finest clothes, but you also get to participate in religious festivals and rituals, which take place regularly throughout the year. Some of these celebrations last 4 days, with music, dancing, and feasting. Others are more somber, involving animal sacrifices and prayers to the gods. Despite the privileges you enjoy, though, there are times when you wish you were just a commoner. Being a member of the elite means that you never really have any peace. There are always people looking to you for leadership, for guidance, for protection. Even when you try to relax, it doesn't last for long. You cannot truly unwind because you are always aware of the responsibilities that come with your status. Being an elite member of Inca society means that you are never truly free. At night, the halls are dim oil lamplight, illuminating the many offerings and statues placed around your home. You might have servants attending to you, serving you the finest foods from the empire, including the staple of maize, potatoes, squash, and peppers. Alpaca wool blankets are spread out on the floors to keep you warm and comfortable as you sip on fermented chicha. Outside, llamas and alpacas are kept in special pens, ready to be sacrificed if necessary. Their sacrifice is a grand event, full of prayer and ceremony, as you and others venerate Pachamama, from whose substance all life comes. The animal's heart is cut out and offered up, and then its skin is used for ceremonial purposes or for the creation of beautiful garments. Life is not all solemn duty and religious obligation. After all, you're a member of the elite. Your evenings can be filled with music and dance. Musicians play the charango, a small guitar-like instrument, or the kina flute made from a single piece of cane. Drummers beat time while dancers twirl and jump, reenacting myths and legends. You join in the festivities, laughing and eating until late into the night. Then when it's time for bed, servants draw the curtains and hang up mosquito nets to keep away biting insects. As you lay down on your bed of reeds and wool, you know that tomorrow will bring more responsibilities. But tonight, you're going to enjoy yourself. Now, tomorrow will be another day of work. For you, as a member of the elite in Cusco, you probably hold some kind of important position in society. Life in the Inca capital is not easy. As a commoner, you wake early in the morning to tend your crops. It's hard to imagine what it would have been like to live in the Inca capital, but one thing is for sure, it would have been an adventure. It's hard to say what life would have been like in the Inca capital. Now that we've wandered through the empire through terraces and temples, palaces and plazas, let us return, slowly, to the present. The Inca left no books behind, no inked scrolls, no marble monuments, and yet, their story lingers. It lingers in the curves of ancient roads, still walkable, still leading somewhere. And he held a unique place in society, as priest, chief and father of the empire. For the Inca, all things belonged to the emperor, but also everything belonged to everyone. Perhaps it begins in childhood, listening to elders spin yarns about legendary heroes. Maybe it started when you left home, trading familiar streets for uncharted trails. Or perhaps it started with a single step forward, a decision to leave the old road and strike out on your own. Wherever, whenever it began, your story is part of the empire. The Inca believed every story was linked to all others, and yours is no exception. Your life, your loves, your losses, your triumphs, they are all threads in the great tapestry of the world, woven together with every sunrise. Now it's time to add another thread to the pattern, another scene to your story. Put on your pack again and feel its weight settle on your shoulders. Adjust your staff and grip the rope connecting your llama to your belt. Look up toward the mountains, following the trail higher and higher. Soon you will reach new heights, discover new vistas. The road is never easy, but the view is always worth it. Subjects had the right to use land, collect firewood or fish in a stream as long as they gave something back, whether a small offering of fish or a few days' labor. Service to the community was a duty and a virtue. There were no beggars in Inca society, no homeless either. If a traveler arrived in a village and asked for food, he would receive it, but he was expected to pay back that kindness in some way. He might sleep in an inn shared by merchants and artisans, or he might stay with a family whose children would greet him at dawn, ready to start his day with a breakfast of dried meat and maize beer. The Inca believed that work itself was sacred, a way to demonstrate one's loyalty to the empire. Laborers received room and board and often had their children educated for free. One man might spend his days working on a wall, adding another stone to the terrace, while his son learned a trade from a master artisan, earning enough to support both of them when the father grew too old to work. It wasn't just about the work itself, but what it created. Canals, temples, storehouses, roads, each spoke of the empire's greatness and instilled pride in those who made it. Each rock monolith, each block of granite was a chance to honor the empire, to make the best stone possible, to last as long as the empire itself. It was a different kind of labor from anything you might know, bound together by the belief that what they made belonged not to them, but to the people and the world. In the stones of Cusco, whose fitted angles defied the ages, legend holds that the first Inca was born in a cave near the river, and the empire spread from there. Now, historians know better than to trust legends, yet this story suggests something deep within the Inca worldview. For the Inca, the land was alive, breathing, powerful. It was a mother, and she could be generous or terrifying. And her children, the Inca, would learn her ways. They would study clouds and soil and birds to understand her moods. They would listen to rumors carried on the wind. Even the king, the Sapa Inca, considered himself her son, her favorite, and he owed everything to her. His power came from her, and so did his wealth. When he offered thanks, he sent her gold. And how did he send it? Across the highlands, up and down mountains, along cliffs and over rivers. A string of porters carried the gold to her temple in a ritualistic procession. Every step of the way, they fed the mountain spirits with coca leaves and corn liquor. They sang songs to ask the rivers for safe passage and appease the wind with incense and prayer. Then finally, they climbed to the steps of the temple, where priests accepted the tribute in the name of the earth. Sometimes the Inca journeyed to see their mother themselves, trekking to the highest plains, where snow-capped peaks pierced the clouds. There, in the thin air, far from the concerns of men, the Inca could commune with the gods. The emperor's progress would be announced weeks ahead by detachments of chasqui, the state runners, who checked the pasas, making sure nothing blocked the emperor's way. Farmers would clear the fields to let the Inca pass. Herders would drive animals off the road. Villagers would turn out their finest textiles and foodstuffs to welcome him. And when the emperor arrived, the townspeople would perform dances for his amusement, reenactments of ancient myths and legends, complete with costumes and masks. These festivals played an important role in Inca culture. They weren't just celebrations of harvest but a way to remind the people of their history, to teach new generations about their heritage, and to give thanks to the gods for past blessings. During the festivals, commoners could put aside their tools and join the nobility in celebrating life in the empire. It was a rare chance to forget their labors and remember the myths that told the Inca's origin story. In the ridges of Machu Picchu, still holding secrets beneath the moss, their legacy floats in the language of Quechua, still spoken in homes and marketplaces across the Andes. It echoes in the rhythm of festivals, in the smoke of offerings made to Pachamama, the Earth Mother, by farmers and shepherds today. What's remarkable is not just that they built an empire in the sky, but that they did it without wheels, without money, without writing as we know it. Their world was built on memory, on motion, on trust. It was a world of relay runners and knotted cords, of obligations and offerings, and at its center was a belief that the world was not theirs to own, but to tend. That life was about balance between the people and the land, between the living and the ancestors, between effort and reward. Of course, the empire fell, as all do. But as we've seen, it was not erased. It survives in the land, in the culture, in the stories whispered by mountain winds. So now, as your eyes grow heavier, imagine the high Andes under a blanket of stars. A gentle wind brushes the terraces. A faint flute song rises from a distant village. Somewhere, the silhouette of a lone llama stands still in the moonlight. You are no longer carrying potatoes or building walls. The journey is done. You may rest now. The empire will watch over you. Sleep well. Thousands of years ago, the Inca walked these lands as you did, beneath the same sun, the same moon, among the same mountains. They followed trails worn smooth by generations of llamas and humans alike. Trails that snaked through passes and around peaks, always upward, seeking the sun. Though time has faded most of their footprints from these hills, we can still see them here. And they are like a pilgrim's path worn into the shoulder of a hill or a stairway carved into a mountainside. It took the Inca decades to upgrade these tracks to paved roads, but the roads were worth the effort. Some stretched more than 40,000 kilometers, a full 2-day walk. Imagine setting out in the morning mist, following the curve of a river until the distant bridge appeared, marking safe passage to the other side. At day's end, you might find an inn run by fellow travelers or a stone-edged well with fresh water, perhaps even a full bathhouse, a rarity in this dry land. But always there would be another dawn, bringing new strength and a new stage of the road ahead. And because these roads were so vital, the Inca kept them safe. An empire without a standing army. They relied on a system of messengers, runners who raced from town to town, delivering urgent news, unopened letters, and perhaps warnings of trouble ahead. This was a dangerous job. Bandits lurked along these paths, as they do everywhere, and many a runner met his end, tossed over a cliff with a sack of news still clutched to his chest. When danger loomed, the local communities would take over the runner's task, passing messages by word of mouth from person to person until the threat had passed. Without these thoroughfares, the empire could not have thrived. For trade, religion, and tribute flowed along these arteries to the beating heart of the Inca world. And what was that heart? Inca society was famously egalitarian. They had no lords or kings, only the Sapa Inca, the one who was the emperor. To hear the Inca tell it, their empire began in the heart of the highlands, in the sacred valley of... And where does your story begin? Where does your own tale start?